focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. In conversation with Christophe Beck.
Hello and welcome. You're watching us on this special episode in conversation with Christophe Beck. I'm Manglam Malu. Ecolab, we all know as a global leader in sustainability, provides essential solutions and services in water, hygiene and infection prevention, with a focus on protecting both people and vital resources. Ecolab's science-based solutions, data-driven insights and exceptional service support customers across 40 industries, over 40 industries in fact. Their efforts advance food safety, ensure clean and safe environments, and enhance water and energy efficiency. As they say, there is no planet B, right? So to shed light on the company's sustainable business practices and future trends in water efficiency and sustainability, we're joined by none other than Christophe Beck, who's the chairman and CEO of Ecolab. Christophe, thank you so much for flying down to India, joining us here for this special conversation.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Great to be here. Well, so, the most important thing, everyone's talking about water, everyone's talking about water conservation, and everyone's talking about water purification and sustainability. What is it that you see as an opportunity here, and what is it that you believe that you've done to improve upon that entire situation here?
The cool thing is that no one is against water. No one is against clean water. No one is against too much water when it's not overwhelming, which happens sometimes as well. But everybody understands when there's not enough water, there's no life, there's no business growth, there's no future. And it's something that we can really touch. When we talk about carbon, green gas emissions, it's harder to touch. We can all touch water and we experience it. And when we look a little bit at a few facts, in the world, we use as much water as what nature can replenish as a planet. But if we look at places like in India, well, it's a little bit different, obviously, where demand and supply are very different. And if we think at 2030, well, in India, we will need 50% more water than what nature can replenish. 18% of the population, world population, 4% of the fresh water reserves as well, in a high growth country with great population growth as well. You say, well, we're heading for a problem. So for sure. In the last few days, I had a chance to work with great Indian companies as well in semiconductors, in microprocessing, in steel making, and all of them are facing the water challenge. All want to grow, all want to bring new technology. When you don't have water, you can't keep growing. So what we've done for many, many years is to find solutions that we do like nature does. That's ultimately reusing, recycling water within operation, being in a hotel, being in a data center, being in a hospital.
What exactly does Ecolab do? What are the solutions that they provide? How big is the business opportunity here? And is it expensive to utilize Ecolab's services for industries? Or maybe a little more money is what they pay for now, for a lot more value that they generate over the next few years?
This is the perfect sales pitch. But we have 3,000 people in R&D, in digital technology. That has some value. But at the end of the day, when we help a company produce more of whatever they produce with much less water, they make more money as well at the same time. And how do we do it? We've invented many years ago this concept of connected chemistry, connected water, which means that we can trace the qualities and properties of water from it outside a pipe, wherever it is, in a data center or in a car manufacturing plant. So we can see what's the quality of the water, and we can treat it in a way that we can reuse it every time. So when you produce a microprocessor, for instance, where you have those silicon cylinders that you need to cut, you create obviously a lot of contaminants like that. You need to polish it. You produce the microprocessor afterwards. Well, that's creating a lot of water issue. If you do it step by step, you reuse it. Thanks to our technology, you can produce more chips in a way that's more cost effective and using much less water. And that's what we do.
How do you do that? Can you tell me, as a story, there's this great concept in the world, says, explain it like I'm 5. How does Ecolab ensure that companies use less water? Give me a real world example, some of your clients in India.
Absolutely. So let's take this example of microprocessing.
Okay.
So to produce a microchip that we all have in our phone, in our computers, or in data centers, ultimately. Well, in order to produce them, you need to cut those silicium cylinders. It's a big cylinder that you cut like small discs of it, very thin. You polish them, you print a microprocessor on it, and ultimately you have a product that you can use. Well, all that is done in water. All that requires a lot of water. So the way that we do it is ultimately we can control the property of the water in real time from outside of the process. And every time that we see the water, the quality is changing a little bit, we use chemistry, we use technology, that ultimately the water can become the normal, natural, clean water that can be reused in that whole process. And ultimately, you can produce much more microprocessors with the same water without impacting nature at a cost that's more competitive than your competition.
That's incredible. You know, you've at a cost that's more competitive than your competition.
And this is absolutely key.
This is absolute. How much does it cost? What is the incremental cost of, say it costs me X to set up this plant. How much more does it cost for me to set up this plant in collaboration with Ecolab? I'm just trying to understand from a business owner standpoint, what is it that I pay additionally and what is it that I save?
So the interesting thing is that it might cost you 20% more.
I got it.
But if you think about your total operation in your plant, it might be 50% less expensive ultimately. So a small part of your investment might be more expensive, but ultimately your total cost of operation goes down. Because the thing that we really learned over the last few years is sustainability at the cost doesn't work. Consumers are saying, I'm not going to pay more for a so-called green product. They all say it in surveys, obviously on TV maybe, but when they're in the store and having to buy the product, saying, no, I'm not going to buy it. Investors are saying, well, I'm not okay if you reduce earnings because you're kind of protecting or saving the planet as well at the same time. It needs to come at the benefit that ultimately, the more you save natural resources, the better you cost, and that's how we're going to solve the problem, which is a big paradigm shift that we all need to make.
Well, that is exactly what my next point was, because India is in a unique position and potential in the world right now. Right now, as we are growing, we're thinking of increasing the earnings per share. We're increasing our production capabilities. We're increasing the serviceability of the large audience that there is, the customers that there are in India, and not just India, the world as well. How do we, while we scale, incorporate and integrate sustainability as we scale? Because it's best when it starts at the start, right?
Yeah. So the key thing is really to design systems, whatever you produce, being a car, a microchip, a movie, whatever that is ultimately, with a circular approach, like nature does. When you think about water, well, we always hope that the water that we're drinking came from heaven. Well, it comes from the lakes, it comes from the bathroom, it comes from wherever it's been ultimately. It's been purified and it comes back to you and we reuse it. That's what nature does. Human being, we don't do it that way. We take it from the river, we process it, we dump it, and we hope that nature is going to do something good about it. With technology, let's do it like water. That within a plant, within a hotel, within a hospital, you reuse the water all the time. But you need to design it as such at the very beginning. And at the end, we all talk about wastewater, and we have wastewater plant. We have that in cities, in municipalities, in industrial park and all that. This is the wrong concept. Mentally, we should say wastewater doesn't exist because we reuse it, recycle it within the plant, within the hotel, within the house, within the airport, wherever you are. And that's the magic of it. And that's how India can keep growing as fast as you want with as little natural resources as
like
you
they say about the law of energy, right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just is constant. That's what you say about water as well. It cannot be created minus nature. It cannot be destroyed. It should not be wasted as well. What we'll do is actually we'll take a short break, come back, continue our discussion on what seems to be extremely fascinating. I'm more interested in particular on the size of the business opportunity, your competition, and what gives you the right to win as well. We take a short break, come back, our conversation continues. Don't go anywhere.
In conversation with Christophe Beck. In conversation with Christophe Beck.
Welcome back. You're watching us here on this special episode. I'm in conversation with Christophe Beck. Interesting conversation that we're having about water replenishment, sustainability, and infection prevention as well. You've spoken about what you do. You've spoken about the size of the opportunity. If you could put a number to that, say X is the size of the opportunity here in India. That's the total addressable market. This is what Ecolab is at right now, and this is your target over the next 5-10 years. If you could give us all these three.
That's a lot of numbers, obviously.
Yes,
so
please.
the opportunity that we chase in the world is 152 billion. And in India, we estimate it's roughly 10% of that.
Okay,
And
15 billion.
when we look at what we're doing in India, we're by far the market leader in India right now. We have roughly 10% of that market as well. So the opportunity is huge. And the other good news is that it keeps growing because we have more people, more industry, more consumption, and less water.
All right. So you've given us a rough breakdown of the market itself and your leadership position here as well. You've spoken about chips. You've spoken about, by chips, I don't mean the eating chips, but let's talk about the eating chips now. Exactly. Food and beverages. How do you, incorporate sustainability out here? How do you incorporate infection prevention out here? How do you make the food we eat safer for all of us?
If you take an example like milk, we deal so with the farmers where you have the cows, obviously, that you need to take care of and making sure that they're healthy. We help make sure that the cow is healthy, producing healthy milk. And then afterwards, you need to make sure that when you get the milk from the cow, that it's done in a healthy way as well. When you process it then afterwards to do whatever dairy product, well, you want to make sure that it's done in a sterile way that's protecting the product. And the very good news is that your milk is going to be safer for you to consume, which is really important. But at the same time, if it's done in a way that's sterile, that's well protected, your milk lasts longer as well. You don't need to go that often as well, so to the store. At the same time, you have much less waste because your milk is going to stay longer at your home as well. And that's the way we think about it. It's really helping a dairy, for instance, make sure that the milk is safe, ultimately lasts longer, it's better for the consumer. Their costs are lower as well for the farmer because they get more money because it's quality milk, and the dairies as well because it's better. And at the same time, they have a great story that they can talk about as well, that it's been done in a way that's been protecting the animals, protecting nature, and protecting people ultimately as well. A good story all around.
A good story all around. And what's interesting is that if everything is so good, what is the penetration level? Because as you penetrate deeper, that good story starts to reach more people, and this circle that you're talking about completes. Where are you at right now, and what is the opportunity that you see here?
Our penetration, I would say, is roughly 10% if we take everything. But the truth is we're focusing on the larger companies first, food companies, manufacturing companies, and with them we have much larger share. With some of the best companies, largest companies in India, we've been working for 30 years, 40 years,
Would they be,
50
if you
years.
could take some names?
Tata has been our longest lasting partner in the country. We've been meeting this morning as well with Tata Steel, with Narendran, who is a good friend, a partner. We've been working 40 years together. He was not there 40 years ago. I was not there 40 years ago, obviously. But we work together. We help them produce better products while protecting people and the environment as well at the same time. And many other companies around. Biocon was an interesting one as well in bioprocessing. She has an unbelievable story, obviously, yes. So in India. And we're partnering with her to help her produce the best drugs in a way that are protecting people and natural resources at the same time.
So some of the Indian clients that you have at penetration of 10%, you obviously have a lot of growth headroom here as well. I wondered intuitively, do you never think of listing in India, maybe let everyone else participate in this wealth creation journey that you're on as well, while you are making the world a better place too?
We never thought about that, but we're open to new ideas, obviously. I was with my team, so with customers, so this morning as well, and saying, hey, we're investing in that customer stock as well. I said, why do you do that? And say, well, because first we love that customer. At the same time, well, they're doing great on the stock market. I said, well, Ecolab is doing even better. We have a great run, obviously, the last few years and for the 100 years that we've been as well in business. But in a way, I think it's good that our teams are kind of interested in our customers, in our company at the same time. Whether we're going to list in another country outside the US, it's complicated enough to be listed in the US to begin with. I don't know, but whatever is right for our teams, our shareholders, we will consider. And the world is evolving quickly.
All right, then a final question then, looking ahead, what are the future trends that you see in water efficiency, sustainability, and something that you can give as an advice to all the other Indian companies, apart from dialing into the numbers of Ecolab to help them?
A few things. You know, we've been 100 years in business. It's our 101 year in 2024. And we were looking back what we did the last 100 years. We've had an unbelievable growth story, unbelievable impact as a company. And we've said, okay, where do we want to be in the next 10 years? And we said, well, we want to grow fast, keep driving our earnings in double digit as we've done forever in a way. But most importantly, we want to do it by delivering on our purpose, which is to protect 2 billion people from infection and enough water for the drinking needs of 1 billion people. And what's most interesting is that we've said we will do that in a way that's water and carbon neutral, 100% renewable powered, 100% EV driven as well, and 100% committed to equity and to safety, which is at the core of who we are as a company. And in terms of advice, it's really to think about sustainability as a way to make more money. And for too long, we've thought about that as just saving the planet and doing the right thing. This is true. But ultimately, it's only going to happen if it's right for business, right for shareholders, and right for consumers.
In fact, I was just about to slip in that question beyond the last question as well, because you just gave me that hook of saying that sustainability needs to be looked at as something that makes you more money as well, because it's economically efficient over a longer period of time. But you spoke about the US. There's this famous quote of Jeff Bezos, which says that your margin is my opportunity. I'm sure because the total addressable market is so large, and you, despite being the leader, is just 10% of the market, 10% penetration, there could be a lot of competition as well, right? So what's your right to win apart from being here much ahead of everyone else? I'm sure a lot of people can look at ingenious ways and maybe, come out with some better solutions as well, which, while on a net basis will be positive for the entire ecosystem, not necessarily for you and your earnings. How do you win against competition? What's your strategy here?
Our strategy, there's many elements, but at the core of it is in our early name as a company. Ecolab today, it was Economics Laboratory in 1923 when we started. Our promise to customers is how much money are we going to save for them. And our margins might be great, our PE might be great, our growth might be good, our stock price evolution might be great. But what's most important is what we do for our customers is a net positive for them. They might be investing at a premium in what we do. Ultimately, their operations will be way better working with us, and that's why we're working with customers for 30 years, 40 years in the case of Tata, as mentioned just before, because it's a net benefit for them, short term and for the long run.
Any acquisitions that you're eyeing in India apart from your own capabilities?
We're totally open for that. We've done 100 acquisitions as a company in the last 10 years. We've done them everywhere around the world. India is on top of my list for me and for the future as well. If we find companies, that strategically are relevant for us, but most importantly, share our culture, share our values, and that it makes financial sense. We're extremely disciplined on how we deploy our capital. We have an extremely solid balance sheet. It's a good problem to have. We're in a perfect place to invest in places where we believe there's a great future. And for me, India is definitely one of them.
Right, so I won't ask you to, name your competitors here on the platform, but do you think there are people who are doing a good job in India? What do you think of some of the players in India? Could you call some of them out?
As competitors, with all we do, providing end-to-end solutions.
They may not necessarily be competitors as well. They could be some players in this space of sustainability, ESG, which are actually impressing you.
It's who we are. That's what we do, obviously, so for a living. We usually don't focus on our competition. And to be really honest, competition that we have in most countries, including in India, is not that great. So for me, the way I'm benchmarking our company is with the very best companies, being in high tech, being in biotech, in future technologies, high growth, high margin, high PE. Those are the companies that I want to compare myself. Our competitors in general, they're okay. They're not where we want to go.
All right, we typically talk about what you bring from your experience of the world to India. I have to ask you this as we look at wrapping up this conversation. What from India have you learned which you've taken back to your own learnings in the US?
There are so many things. I'm a total fan of this place. I've been
I know
coming
that,
here
and
for
which is why I asked
30
you
years.
this.
And the creativity, the entrepreneurial spirit, I don't know if it's a great practice, but the 24/7 nature of the Indian way of working is fascinating. I don't know if it's sustainable for everyone everywhere around the world, but it moves the world. It drives solutions. It brings things that no one else has ever thought about. And that's why for us, India is becoming one of the core countries for the world, not just for what we do in India. We remote monitor 40,000 plants, nuclear plants, airport, hospital, car manufacturing, paper mill, you name it, from Pune in India. We have 150 people following 40,000 plants out there in 24/7 mode. And those people know so much about 40 industries anywhere around the world. Well, we are creating our digital center as well here in India. We have 900 people today. We keep growing in Bangalore. We'll have our center of competence for a bunch of different functions as well. We bring 1,300 people new in Pune as well in the next few quarters. So for us, India, great way of thinking, great entrepreneurial spirit, great business in India, but most importantly, it's the value that India can provide to the world that interests me the most.
That's incredible. And what's the money that you're putting to your mouth here? I mean, over the next 10 years?
Way too much. But
what's the earmarked investment that you have for India over the next, say, 5-6 years that you have visibility over?
A few $100 million for sure. If we make a big acquisition, that's going to be more than that. Other than that, there is no limit. Be creative, add value for our customers, add value for our company. That's going to drive value for our shareholder. We've had 100 years of great history, and the last few years have been great for the company. I think that the best is yet to come for Ecolab.
All right, 100 years of great history, 100 years of a great future as well for India and Ecolab. Christophe, it was incredible having this conversation with you today in our studios itself. Wish you the very best, and more importantly, wish for our planet to be a lot better than what it was over the last few years.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, so with that, we've come to a close of this special episode. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18 for more news and updates. Continue.
In Conversation with Christophe Beck.